Hi, this is Linda McKenney, and the name of my story is Karma. We all have that little voice in our head. For some, it's louder than others. My internal voice tells me that anything is possible. And while the outcomes I desire elude me time and time again, I still listen. When that little voice hoodwinks me into believing that I can change a situation, listening and then acting on this rarely successful plan can make me vulnerable to mayhem, thereby creating my own personal negative karmatic aura. According to the Dalai Lama, karma moves in two directions. If we act virtuously, the result will be happiness. If we act non-virtuously, suffering will result. I'll let you decide. Several years ago, I placed second in a Toastmasters speech contest, and I was sure I had the winning speech. I even had people in the audience tell me that they thought I had won, and I had worked really, really hard. I was having a hard time accepting it. I was very disappointed, and I felt powerless to change the outcome. Then I got an email telling me that as the runner-up, I was invited to the convention for free, where the contest would be held. At first I thought, well, that's like rubbing salt in the wound. But the more I thought about it, I had an epiphany. I should be there, just in case. The universe was sending me a message. I was destined to attend. The seed of possibility was planted, and all I had to do was water it. My delusional thinking blossomed into a scenario where a minor mishap, just a little bout of laryngitis, would befall the winner of the contest, and I would take his place. I believe these are feelings similar to those of the runner-up in the Miss America contest. I started rehearsing and went down a non-virtuous karmatic chasm of self-inflicted suffering, largely because I turned off the volume in the logical part of my brain. Checking into my hotel the weekend of the conference, the desk clerk asked me if I knew what Linda meant in Spanish, and I said, "Beautiful," and he smiled. It was another sign. I floated to my room on a cloud of possibility. I unpacked, got into my jammies, and set out a bottle of red wine. I had one of those corkscrews where you twist and then the wings come up. And then when they're already up, you push down on to take the cork out. This was the hardest cork I'd ever encountered. I twisted and I twisted and I twisted, and then I switched arms so I didn't build up too much muscle on one arm, and I twisted and I twisted and I twisted. And about halfway through, the wings came up, I pushed down on them, and one of them broke off. So now I began to wiggle the corkscrew back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until the corkscrew just snapped. Mildly frustrated, I began chopping at the cork. Chop, 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 chop. Little pieces of cork flew all over the place until eventually the cork plopped down into the bottle and red wine spilled all over the place. Well, reaching for one of the white towels to clean up the mess, I heard my mother's voice in my head, "You'll ruin those towels." And so I cleaned up with toilet paper. My trash can looked like a murder had been committed in my room. I poured a glass of wine and snuggled under the covers, and after drinking it, I dozed off. I'm awakened by bedlam above me. The hotel has all hardwood floors, and apparently a herd of buffalo with roller bags has checked in upstairs. After about a half an hour, they were quiet, and I started drifting back to sleep. And then I heard a rhythmic bed sound that could not be mistaken for anything other than what it was. Gradually, or gratefully, it only lasted for 5 minutes. I slipped back to sleep. At midnight, I was jolted awake by a jet plane flying directly into my room. I hadn't realized the hotel was at the end of a runway. The pilot of the plane must be misjudging his ascent. I threw myself out of bed and curled up into a ball beside it. And then I realized that the plane was overhead and flying, not flying into the window, but flying off into the distance. I got back into bed and settled my heart and finally fell back to sleep. I was rudely awakened by the alarm. 6:30 a.m. I showered and then I realized I didn't have a hairdryer. Now, some people can get by without having a hairdryer, but trust me, this needs the benefit of a hairdryer. And you know those little signs in the room that say, just call the front desk, which I did. And when I called, they said, we don't have any hairdryers. And I think they could tell by the frustration in my voice that, what do you mean you don't have a hairdryer? So the desk clerk offered to go to see if somebody had left one behind. I was in luck. I threw on some clothes and with dripping wet hair went down to the desk at front and got the hairdryer. I don't think he was thinking beautiful anymore. When I arrived at the conference, I encountered the first place winner and he was in perfect health. And my unrelenting, anything is possible imagination fantasized that he would leave the building and not be able to find his way back. As you probably guessed, this story did not have my desired happy ending. I did not participate in the contest. And I'm ashamed to say that I took pleasure in the fact that he didn't win. Exiting the building, I saw a little cafe that I had not noticed before. The sign outside said, "Welcome to the Karma Cafe. There are no menus. You get what you deserve."